Welcome back. In the previous video, we learned how to import an image and set it up as a background as a canvas in our workspace, how to calibrate that to bring the real world size to the object. Then also, we used the built-in spline tool to trace the hard borders of that object that we are trying to remodel. Then also we learned how to adjust these control points to change the curvature so that we can bring the intended shape of that object so close as possible so we can use that to continue with our modeling. Now we can use this sketch. So we have a closed loop here. So now I'm going to show you how do we use this sketch to create a solid model. So when you go to the project browser, I can turn off or I can hide the canvas now because no longer need that because I already traced the borders of it and I have the sketch. So I click on this eye symbol and turn the canvas off. Basically, I hide that. Now I have this closed loop here. So the process of creating a solid, we call it extrude. So we can click on this button. Now I make this an opportunity to show you the other shortcuts available in Fusion 360. When you right click on this sketch, what we're going to see a very innovative menu that we can easily access some useful buttons. We call this a marking menu. So the possible options we can straight away delete that, undo previous step, move copy, and we can go back to the sketch and start editing the sketch. Always there's an arrow to go back to the other level. And what we are going to use is option called press pull. So later on I'll show you the difference between press pull and extrude. For now, let's go ahead with press pull. So when I go click on press pull, it's going to ask me to select the sketch again. The reason being, I could have a sketch inside the sketch. So Fusion 360 allows me to select an alternate or a sub sketch to create the press pull. So in my case, I have only one closed loop. So I'm going to click on that when it's black. Now, there you go. So you might have to turn this around, orbit around to see actually what is happening here. So notice I got an arrow appearing here. So it's basically a handle to drag. So you can drag it out like this. Now I have a solid created. Alternatively, you can use this extrude palette to control what we are doing here. So if I undo that, Control Z, right click, press pull, and select this sketch. Now let's see what are the options we have. So start. So the profile plane, that's the plane we are in now. Direction. So at this point, it's giving me option to drag only one direction. So you can select symmetry, or if you do symmetry, you will get to give distance only one. You have to enter the distance only once because it's symmetry. It's gonna go 10 forward, 10 backward. If you use the other option, you get to select two dimensions. How much you want, it allows you to select how much you want to go in the one direction, how much of an extrusion you want on the opposite direction. So in this case, I'm gonna go symmetric, and that is way too much for me. Let's go 10. You can, during the process, you can navigate yourself, rotate around and see how it looks. For me, that looks okay. And then the other important option you need to select is the operation. So you are selecting a new body, you are joining with an already existing one, or you are cutting, intersecting new body. So at this point, I'll select new body. In detail, as we move on, I'll explain each of these later on. So new body, and just say okay. Okay, so now we end up with something look like a hammer. So, but we know real world hammers, they are made out of multiple parts. But in this case, it's just assume this is a toy hammer. Okay, so when you design something like this in the first time, the visual style may be not exactly like this. What do I mean by the visual style? So that is how the graphics going to be adjusted to show the content we have in the workspace. So that is done through the display settings button here in this visual, this view, navigation and view control toolbar at this down bottom here. There's a little button with the computer screen. When you click on that, the first thing you're going to see is the visual style. So I had it changed to shaded beforehand, so that's why you are not going to see any reflected edges like this. So what I'm going to go by default, as you usually have as a default setting, I go to shaded with visible edges only. So that way I can see the edges of the solid that I have designed. So usually we have it in this visual style, so we can clear the edges properly, so we can do the edge modification operations that we are going to discuss in a minute. Okay, so while we are here, let's do that now. So in the create panel, we already used the some the creating the solids or sketches operations. We already discussed some of them already. Now let's do a fillet. So what, as I mentioned before, fillet is a tangential connection between two faces. So I click on the fillet button. Now it allows me to select the edges that I want to round. So if I select on this, so if you look at this sketch, I mean this edge is just all around it is just one single edge. So if I select that, now I can give a number. So how much the radius of the fillet, I can give it in millimeters. Just say how much is 5. 5 is going to be pretty small because it's a quite large design. The fillet chamber encountered non-manifold edge of fillet. Okay, so I might have some issues with this. Yes. So I might have to change the edit the sketch uh, in order to fillet this. So those kind of issues you might face. So let me show you how do we handle them. So if you look at if you go very closely, this is a problem. It is intersecting. Even though the press full allowed me to do the uh, extrusion, this is not something you can use to fillet. Okay, so this is sort of a troubleshooting bonus part I included for the lesson. All right, so how do we edit the sketch? All right, so I make this an opportunity to show you the timeline down here. So all the operations we do is going to get recorded here. So before I go to the sketch, then the filleting, let me do one of the others. There's another extrusion. What I'm going to do, remember I was talking about sketches. Sketches can be done only on planes. This is a plane now. What we're looking at this sketch, this mesh here, on a plane or a face. So if I select this face, I can make a sketch in it. Later on, then I can use that sketch to make a cut or make another extrusion. So let's do that first, then we have some more items down here. So this is basically a timeline. It just, as we add more operations, we're going to have more items in here. So notice I have the canvas, then sketch, then the extrusion. Okay, so when we add more operation, watch what we're gonna have there. All right, so I select this face, then I go to create sketch. Now did you notice that automatically it just gave me the normal view? Now I'm looking directly at it. I just simply click on a center diameter circle, and make a hole. I'll just give it 10. Okay, and press enter. That's all I wanted to do. So basically what I wanted to make a through hole so I can hang this hammer on a hook or something. So I make a sketch and finish sketch. Now this sketch is ready for an operation. What is the operation? Let me select extrude. If I use extrude, then it asks me to select this feature. I use this sketch. Now have a look what's going to happen. So I can pull it out like this. Then I'm going to make an extra meat hanging out of this hammer. If I want to make a cut, only thing you need to do is just push it inward. Then you can see Fusion is smart enough to figure out what I'm going to do with this. When I'm doing that, pay attention to what happened in this operation box. Okay, so right now it has figured out it's a cut. So when I go out, it gave an option new body. So this can be a new body. I mean, this I already have this hammer as a body here, and this can be a new body, or is also can used as join. So that means that way. So that's a new part joined into. I mean, it's going to be just one whole object. So I'll speak about that later pretty soon. So for now, let's go with cut. So it automatically figure out when I go through this. So I can give a numerical value. Okay, change it to cut, or just go through. However the file can go, because this is not going to be a physical object because it's just a cut. Okay, now we made a hole. Okay, so now if you look at timeline, I have this operation here, extrude. If I undo, I could do the same exact thing with the press pull as well. Right click, press pull. Notice what says here, press pull. Okay, in right here, press pull. If when we tried the extrude tool, it was showing me extrude right here, because I just click on the extrude button. Now it was showing me the extrude tool panel. But as soon as I click on this sketch, there you go. It just automatically went into extrude mode. So now I can do the same thing, push it in all the way. Now it's identified as a cut, and I say okay. So that is the press pull is like a shortcut tool. It's just a very innovative, smart tool that figures out, depending on what object we have selected. Since I had selected a sketch, it knew. Okay, so we're going to do an extrusion. Similarly, now since I have an like a trouble-free closed loop here, if I selected on this edge and right click on that and press pull, what happened? Now it didn't give me an extrusion because I clicked on a already created object edge. So now press pull means giving a fillet. So I can use the press pull to make an extrusion and also make a fillet. So the same thing I can 2.5, I'm happy with that, just say okay. So this is same exact thing as select an edge and go to fillet. That's the same exact box I had before. So I can give a number 2.5. You can simply type or use the arrow to because it has increments of 0.5 millimeter. Constant radius, let's not worry about most of the other options here. Okay, that's done. So this is the timeline I was talking about, right? So timeline, I think when you hover over them, it's just showing you what is that each of sketches are about. What are they doing? So this one is the sketch for my the through hole, and this is the actual sketch for the hammer. So I can right click and go edit sketch. So when I go edit sketch, I think I remember where I have the issue. There is the culprit. That's the problem I have. So I can click on that point, I can move it out, or I can simply delete that one. Let's go ahead and delete it. I'm pretty sure even this one's going to be too sharp when you're going to fillet it. So remember that fact when you use if you plan to use this filleting, this rounding the edges, you need to avoid this very sharp bends, very sharp corners in the edges. So let me delete this one. I can simply, so you can see it's a very sharp curvature. Delete. Then you can always add a new fit point. Click here. Then okay, press escape. Then click on that. You can move inward a bit and change the curvature if you like. Okay, that should do the trick. Finished. Okay, so now you can go ahead and do let's select the edge, right click, press pull, and still there will be a limit. I can't go much because of some other curvatures. Smooth it a bit. I think when you go in, right, all right, 2.5 is the maximum it's going to allow me. I can change the variable radius and select the places, but it's going to be too much of a work for you. I don't want to overload and overwhelm you. So constant 2.5. Okay, that seems to be reasonable. I mean, that's what will allow you. It won't let me go any further because here you can see the two fillets going to intersect. So those things, be mindful when you are using these rounding corners operations. So I can use a different method here. I can go fillet, select the other edge. When you try to go in, it will say nope. The file chamfer could not, fillet chamfer could not be created at the requested size because I have requested 12.5. Of course, it can't be done. But if you go further back, if you back out a bit, this level Fusion is happy. I can let it go. Say, okay, done. All right, so I talked about the fillet and also the timeline down here. Okay, now I would like you to pay some attention onto this browser, this project browser. So this, I got a categorization here. So I got bodies. At this point, I got only one body. If you click on that, it just shows you which one is that. Then canvases, I got only one in this example today. And the sketches, I got two sketches. And you can always click on them. So sorry, click again, then you can rename them. Hammer, then click again, hole, hanging hole, something. So you can, it is a good practice to name them so that let me name this one hammer, make this hammer sketch. So it is a very good practice as a convention to name the bodies like this, bodies and sketches, so that way it's very easy to recognize later on down the line, okay, what is this doing? Okay, so what I'm approaching here is explaining you the difference or the relationship between bodies, components, and ultimately how we're going to create some assemblies in Fusion 360. Basically, when you got multiple components together, joined together, we make up an assembly. When it comes to assemblies, the beauty of Fusion 360 is you don't need another assembly files, then bring the parts files into that. You can do all of them inside in one file here. So I don't even have this saved. Let me go ahead and save this one. Save it. I'll save it in Wesley assembly test. Okay, so you can have all the components built inside the same assembly file. You don't even have to name it assembly. I just did it so it makes sense. So if you look at this very top of the browser, you see this white color cube. So that means it is not an assembly. It's just a uh, just a just a component so far. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to create another component inside there. It starts as a body. You can create another body and convert that into a component, or you can just start itself as a component. Okay, so let's go ahead and go to sketch. I'll select this plane. What I'm going to draw, I'm going to create a hammer hanger. See, that's just the base. I'm not gonna worry about giving dimensions. That's gonna get converted into a box. Push the other way, just maybe make it 10. Okay, then on that face I'll make another sketch, just a circle. Just give a diameter like 9. Finish sketch. And right click, press pull. This one going this way. So notice what happened last time. I even forgot to check what was there. I can guarantee by default it gave me the new body option. But in this case, now I'm checking here. Since that this sketch was sitting on already existing body, now it's giving me the option to join it. So 65, make it 50. All right, and I can give it a bit of a fillet here. Too. That should be good. All right, so notice this part, this whole thing is now body tool. So it now saved in the body section. So I can click on it, click again, give it a name, hanger. So my goal is hanging this hammer upside down in this hole through using this hole in the hammer. So the tool we're going to use to make the assembly is called join. Notice what happened when I try to join them. Click. It says there are no components to assemble in this design. Create new components or convert existing bodies to components. Ah, okay. That makes sense, isn't it? So you can have multiple bodies in a component. So that is exactly what we have here. So this is like acting like one component, but it's not even a component. It's just two bodies there. So what I'm going to do, right click on the body, right click and create components from bodies. So I got only one body here, so I'll click on that. So notice what happens in this browser area when I do that. Right click, create component from bodies. Did you notice what happened right here? So it used to be just one single box. Now it shows me just 3 box stacks together, giving me the idea that now this file is actually an assembly. Okay, so and notice here hammer.1, because you can have multiple copies of them. Right now it says 1. So now that is a simple component, just a separate component here. So this one we can also convert that into a component or just leave it there. Okay, let me go ahead and convert that into a component. So now the hammer and hanger, they are separate components. Now when you go ahead and join, you can join them. It gives me the toolbox. That means I can do the joining. But another good practice is fixing one of the components as the base. So something that, some fixed point that does not move, other objects can get, come join with them and, make the assembly. So we need to make a fixed point. So I click on this, so right click on this hanger, and there is a button called ground. So we are grounding it. Ground. Now we can see there's a pin mark here, so it won't move anywhere, but the hammer can move. So if I undo that, okay, so now it's not pinned, so I can move this one around. Notice here, I can move this one anywhere, all of them. But just to have some sort of a rigidity, I find usually the biggest object or something that, close to the ground, or you can go ground. Some has been moved, that's fine, continue. Okay. Oh, so not the hammer. Control Z. Hanger, I would like you to ground. So since it also recorded, it's very sensitive. I moved them around, so it's asking me, is it okay to fix as is, or you want to go to the old position? So it happy to go to the previous position. Now it's grounded. I can't grab and move it, but the hammer, yes, I can. Now let's do our first assembly, shall we? And I click on join. Now, alright, so it keep asking that, just say that. Alright, so now first click on what is gonna go the moving part. I click on this hole, and that's gonna get connected with this hole. So notice how smart Fusion 360 is when it comes to this assembly. As soon as I click on this, and it just connect there, and it just by default it just figured out some sort of an assembly style. So you can give some offsets here on each direction. You can change Z direction 10, or I think that is the only direction we can move, because it just gave me a concentric assembly here, concentric connection. So all the holes, both of these circles are sharing the same circle. And the other thing I can do is, so right now this is just align the holes. That's all it did. So what we can do, change this one to 10. No. Okay, so I accidentally came out of that. I can right click on the slide, in the timeline. Notice it got very populated here. All the body to component conversion, everything recorded, even the grounding. All right, so right click, edit joint. I can go to motion. Look how much of a freedom I got. So I got revolute. When I click on revolute, it's showing me a nice animation. And slide, it's sliding like that. So in my case, I'll leave it as revolution. And position, I'll go to offset 10. Was it 10? 0? I shouldn't have pressed enter. That's fine. I think it's -10. Okay. And angles, if I do 90, there you go. And good thing is I can always grab and rotate this. That's how we make an assembly in Fusion 360. I'll do one more video as a continuation of solids. I'll do maybe one more example of assemblies, and there are some other tools that I think will be useful for your project. Alright, so I'll see you in the next one. Thank you very much.